Good afternoon, people. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about what I've been doing during my week, and I'm going to be reading to you from the Bible, and either attempting to explain what I've been reading or just respond to what I've been reading. On Monday, I went to Redcliffe War Memorial Pool, and I saw a sign outside the door that said it was closed by government order. So I wasted my time putting on my board shorts and getting my towel out of the cupboard. And Dad wasted his time driving me to the swimming pool. I'm grateful that the pool notified me via a sign that I wasn't able to go swimming. On Tuesday, I went to Butcher Baker Coffee Maker. I was too late to get the free brownies that they were giving people, but I still benefited from a stamp on my coffee card, or Mum's coffee card, which enabled her to get a free coffee the next time she goes to visit. I had fantastic tomato relish and sourdough toast. I had a fried egg. I could have had my egg fried, scrambled, or poached. I had an iced coffee with ice cream. My barista apologised for not being able to give me fresh cream as well. I didn't mind. I was just grateful to have a delicious snack. On Wednesday, I went to Shorncliffe Pier with my support worker. We sat inside the gazebo in the park in Shorncliffe. I had a breakfast bagel from Priest's Cafe. It contained bacon and eggs and a slightly hot, spicy chutney. I had a large cappuccino, and I bought a cake, a lemon meringue cheesecake to take home. I tried to buy fish and chips from Shelley Inn at Sandgate. Despite showing my ID, which entitles me to go anywhere I like maskless, they refused to serve me. I still love their food. I hope I can go back there someday. On Thursday, I had my occupational therapist come over. She told me that she was from London in Ontario, and her province is the first province in Canada to be free from lockdowns related to COVID-19 coronavirus. She likes Drake. She was gutted because her favourite basketball team decided to trade her hero. She's not gonna follow him to whatever team he got picked to represent. She's gonna stay loyal regardless. I like that kind of fidelity. She disagrees with her sister about separating washing based on the color of her linen. She has to insist on her dad eating because unless he's told to eat, he won't eat. She's got a fairly decent knowledge about Australian basketball. I don't know if she ever played. She was helping me to write a schedule. She's got clients in Browns Plains. She has to go all over the place. She's currently waiting for a new fleet of cars to come so her business can provide her with a car to greater capacity, because currently she has to share cars with other workers, which makes it awkward because they don't always have cars available when they need to use it. Should be cool if Drake decided to join a basketball team like J. Cole said he was planning to do. I don't know if he followed through on his plans. She's got a little 3-year-old nephew who she hasn't seen in over a year because of COVID flight restrictions. A lot of families are doing it tough right now. God can make this world better in His perfect timing. We just gotta be patient. He rewards those who diligently seek Him. On Friday, I went walking with Mum and Dad. On Thursday, Mum bought me a latte from Coffee Club at Kippering Shopping Centre. The Coffee Club in Redcliffe got shut down. It's gonna reopen. Their previous landlord was charging them $8,000 a week. I would say that's pretty ridiculous. I don't know how many coffees people serve in a day. Sometimes orders can take 10 minutes. At a late stretch, possibly 20. I don't think you would possibly make 8,000 orders in a day. No cafe is open for 24 hours. Even McDonald's, which claims to be 24/7. Everyone's got to have a break from time to time. It would be hard to find enough staff people to cover all the hours. It is technically possible. I think even if you ran a cafe that did run for 24 hours, you'd be hard pressed to make $8,000 a week. You'd probably get a whole bunch of shift workers between 12 and 6. I remember all-night prayer meetings where we would go for pancakes and burgers at KFC when our prayer meeting was over. I think they would just get a trickle of customers between midnight and 6 a.m. They say a lot of evil occurs when the moon is in the sky. I don't really think that evil takes a holiday though. They say people go bonkers when it's a full moon. Police did a study to prove that isn't true though. The only thing you can use the moon to judge is the tide and menstrual cycles and how they affect a woman's mood. There's a whole bunch of podcasts that you can find at crosspolitic.com that I've been meaning to plug for a while. One of them is Leadership Now, which is a Canadian Christian podcast. One is The Comedian Next Door, which is about a guy and his daughter who make Christian comedy. This occasionally features the daughter's son Colin as well, and her daughter. Up and Ready and The Bullpen are produced by Mark Dewey. The Bullpen is a baseball podcast. Up and Ready is one where he recites scripture and does devotions. Resistance and Reformation is a brief historical podcast. The Rebel podcast is a podcast done by a pastor in Canada who helps make the world aware of the suffering that Canadian Christians are going through right now, as well as just talking about what goes on in the world and looking at it from a perspective that provides both humor and wisdom. The Daily Sword, the Patriarchy podcast, and After the Sandwich are all done by the same two guys. One guy does the Daily Sword by himself. That's a Bible study podcast. The Patriarchy podcast looks at feminism and politics and how to be a man. After the Sandwich pretty much covers the same thing. It just has a slightly different take on it. The Donecast is done by Darren Doan, who worked with many famous bands, including Smashing Pumpkins and Blink-182. He knew Blink-182 when they were still called Blink, before they were famous, before they had to change their name because an Irish band had the same name. Another podcast is Reformgelical, which is done by Matt and A.D. Robles. That's basically combining the Reformed theological way of being a Christian with the evangelical, charismatic or Pentecostal mindset. So basically it covers the perspective of those who believe in predestination and Calvinism, and those who are still Christians but they approach Christ from a different understanding. Westminster Confession of Funk used to be part of the CrossPolitic podcast network, but now it's no longer running, but you can still check out Jason Farley's poetry. He writes about robots and love and He uses a lot of words that haven't been used for thousands of years, or they came into being in the Middle Ages. So it's quite interesting if you like to look at the history of words and if you have a deep love for poetry. Water Break with the Water Boy is done by Gabriel Ranch, who wanted to be the county commissioner for Lata County in Moscow, Idaho. He works on cross politics as part of the sound and promotions department. The Daily News Brief basically covers everything that happens in the world in the course of 24 hours in a very short segment from a Christian perspective. Cross Politics has Chocolate Knox, Pastor Toby Sumpter, and Gabriel Ranch. It's a humorous look at all the things that have been going on in the world. It talks about theology. It talks about the relationships between men and women. It talks about people's businesses, how people deal with the stress of losing their business, how they relate their faith to their business life. It talks about the challenges that Christians face in politics. 80 on the FLF talks about those who perceive the world through a lens of all of the divisions that have been brought about in our world as a result of sins that have been committed by one ethnicity against other ethnicities in the past. He can be gracious at times, and sometimes he can be more tougher than some people can stomach, but I like his willingness to be brave and tackle topics other people are afraid to dive into because they're scared of getting cancelled. FLF stands for Fight Laugh Feast Network. They've got a magazine as well as a podcast network, which is the other name for the Cross Politic Network. It's the new name. Law and Prophets is done by King Ginger, which some people, including himself, refer to as Ginger Knox. He used to work with Jeff Durbin and Apologia. He was on the front line of trying to convince his local council in Arizona to abandon their policy of supporting killing babies inside the womb and just outside the womb. He's now starting a movie network. I don't agree with his choice to allow any kind of expression of sexuality to be on his network, but I do love what he's doing, creating a platform for Christians to share their movie skills. How to Build a Tent got renamed the Matt Williams Show. That was a business podcast which also looked at Matt's struggles to deal with companies, how he worked promoting companies and giving business advice, how he dealt with doctors that used their skills to kill babies, and how he chose to vote with his feet and avoid those doctors like the plague, how he shifted locations from Hawaii to Florida. He now just runs Reformgelical with the help of 80 Regulars. Knox Unplugged is a podcast put together by Chocolate Knox. He talks about metaphysics, religion, politics, psychology, how people deal with prejudice, how people deal with critical race theory. I don't like to say critical race theory, I like to say critical ethnicity theory, because I don't believe in the existence of race. I just believe we're all one human family, so it's stupid to assume that there are multiple races or ethnicities when we can all trace our links back to each other through Adam and Eve. I do rock with what Chocolate Knox says about how some people are so scared to engage with the ideas presented by those that theorize about ethnicity that they prevent dialogue from taking place, just insisting on focusing on the gospel instead of seeing how what Christ accomplished for us on the cross relates to all of life, and it motivates our response to the needs for social justice that we see in our world. Anglers right now are being prevented from doing their job in my state because of fears related to COVID and restrictions related to COVID. My friend in New York is waiting for a church building to house the 100 people that call his church a home, because his church was taken from him during the first wave of COVID. There's Americans that are fighting for money to be given to those who have fought in wars and risked their necks and endured accidents to rescue their fellow countrymen. They're still waiting for justice to be done. God can bring them what they're seeking. It's because of Him we've got an everlasting hope. We've always got a reason to wear a smile on our face. We can walk in grace. We can choose to keep the angry response that we intend to share with the world and those we come across locked inside ourselves and only released in that private, secret place when it's just us and God. By making this choice, we can present God to the world in an attractive way. He helps us know when to shake our fist and when to extend a hand of friendship. He helps us figure out the right response for every situation we experience in life. He's got wits that are sharp like a knife. Unlike knives, his wits never get blunted. He never gets confused or delirious. He never sleeps. He's never weary. He's never so teary-eyed that depression just overwhelms him and makes him not want to get out of bed. It makes him not want to interact with us. He's always willing to dialogue with us. He's our coping mechanism, regardless of what we think of him. He is the one who created us as organisms for the sake of his glory. He designed our anatomical structure. It is because of him we've got hope in the ever-passing moment. I'm grateful for his atonement. I don't ever want to disown him, my Lord. Again, you're watching over me, rejoicing over me. We're singing, bringing me to a place of peace and joy. Working in your blood. Cause of you, I can observe my situation with an attitude that is like yours. You're the one that I worship and adore, the one that I'm fighting for. Just delighting in you, Lord. Help me when I'm frightened, not to be scared for what the future holds. Cause I know that you were grasping my divine one. You're the reason why I can shine. Love you all the time. Even in my hour of frustration and tribulation, hoping not to have a mindset of procrastination. No, my obligation is to respond with gratitude to what you accomplished on the cross. You made it possible for us to be free from sickness and disease and the sin that entangles itself around us until we reach a place where we are liberated from that octopus-like grip. When the tentacles are no longer wrapped around our hearts and souls, you restore us and you make us whole. You're the one that I consult. Silence the revolt in me. You know the necessary steps that must be taken in order for me to forsake the grave-like mentality that owns me. Why do we get so caught up in debates? You are great, you are the one who brings all nations together underneath your wings. You show us when to fight and when to refrain from engaging in any battle that doesn't relate singularly to the one that occurs inside of our minds between the spirit and the flesh. You show us tenderness. You are the one who is reaching for us. You are beseeching us to listen to reason. You are there for us in every season of our soul. You restore and you make us whole. You're in control of our destiny. It's because of you we can live and die free. I am absolutely different to the person that I used to be. I look at myself and I laugh and I praise you for how far you've brought me. You sought me and you fought for me. You wrought brand new me with the fire and the flood, covered by your blood. Because of you, I'm seeing a better day. Yahweh, you are always with me everywhere I go. You are the king of my soul, in control of my flow. I don't ever want to be pushing against the tide of where you want to take me. You awaken me, reveal mystery to me. You're real. You conceal yourself behind your creation, and occasionally you reveal yourself to us face to face, like you did for my buddy when he was on the streets of South Africa, needing you to change his life around, help him do a 180, no longer be living like a gangster and a prankster. Say this task isn't thankless, cause I got heavenly treasures waiting for me up in heaven. Oh, when you restore the nature of heaven to earth, you're the one who determines my worth. I wanna serve you just like the surf does, just like all creation does. We were made to be liberated from our cages that Adam stuck us in, that Eve stuck us in, that we stuck ourselves in because of our sin. We gotta be dead to sin and alive to Christ. We are alive and you were crucified with you, so we no longer live but you live in us. We are simultaneously dead and alive. We are dead in the sense that the old us is dead. We are a different personality. We are different kinds of people now. We are the new cells. We are grafted into your vine. We are new creations. Grateful for your salvation, for your instigation of innovation inside us, restoring us, helping us on a daily when we present our bodies as living sacrifices, holy and acceptable unto you. Gotta give props where it's due. It's 'cause of you I've always got a key to break through. Gonna be reading from Genesis. Ooh. Hold steady. 20. $26. There was another famine in the land in addition to the one that had occurred in Abraham's time. And Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, at Gerar. The Lord appeared to him and said, "Do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land that I tell you about. Stay in this land as an alien, and I will be with you and bless you. For I will give all these lands to you and your offspring, and I will confirm the oath that I swore to your father Abraham. I will make your offspring as numerous as the stars of the sky. I will give your offspring all these lands, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed by your offspring, because Abraham listened to me and kept my mandate, my commands, my statutes, and my instructions." So Isaac settled in Gerar. When the men of the place asked about his wife, he said, "She is my sister," for he was afraid to say, "My wife," again. The men of the place will kill me on account of Rebekah, for she is a beautiful woman. When Isaac had been there for some time, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked down from the window and was surprised to see Isaac caressing his wife Rebekah. Abimelech sent for Isaac and said, "So she is really your wife? How could you say she is my sister?" Isaac answered him, "Because I thought I might die on account of her." Then Abimelech said, "What is this you've done to us? One of the people could easily have slept with your wife, and you would have brought guilt on us." So Abimelech warned all the people, "Whoever harms this man or his wife will certainly be put to death." Isaac sowed seed in that land, and in that year he reaped 100 times what was sown. The Lord blessed him, and the man became rich and kept getting richer until he was very wealthy. He had flocks of sheep, herds of cattle, and many slaves, and the Philistines were envious of him. Philistines stopped up the wells that his father's servants had dug in the days of his father Abraham, filling them with dirt. And Abimelech said to Isaac, "Leave us, for you are much too powerful for us." So Isaac left there, camped in the Gerar valley, and lived there. Isaac reopened the wells that had been dug in the days of his father Abraham, and the Philistines had stopped up after Abraham died. He gave them the same names his father had given them. Then Isaac's servants dug in the valley and found a well of spring water there. But the herdsmen of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's herdsmen and said, "The water is ours." So he named the well Esek, because they argued with him. Then they dug another well and quarreled over that one also. So he named it Sitnah. He moved from there and dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it. He named it Rehoboth and said, "For now the Lord has made space for us, and we will be fruitful in the land." From there he went up to Beersheba, and the Lord appeared to him that night and said, "I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. I will bless you and multiply your offspring because of my servant Abraham." So he built an altar there, called on the name of the Lord, and pitched his tent there. Isaac's servants also dug a well there. Now Abimelech came to him from Gerar with Ahuzzath his advisor, and Phicol the commander of his army. Isaac said to them, "Why have you come to me? You hated me and sent me away from you." They replied, "We have clearly seen how the Lord has been with you. We think there should be an oath between two parties, between us and you. Let us make a covenant with you. You will not harm us, just as we have not harmed you, but have done only what was good to you, sending you away in peace. You are now blessed by the Lord." So he prepared a banquet for them, and they ate and drank. They got up early in the morning and swore an oath to each other. Isaac sent them on their way, and they left him in peace. On that same day, Isaac's servants came to tell him about the well they had dug, saying to him, "We have found water." He called it Sheba. Therefore the name of the city is still Beersheba today. When Esau was 40 years old, he took as his wives Judith, daughter of Beeri the Hethite, and Basemath, daughter of Elon the Hethite. They made life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah. Imagine being Isaac, starving to death, his tummy rumbling, the pain in his heart, wondering when God was ever going to get him out of this pickle. Was God just going to leave him to die in the desert? Was the promise that Abraham had been given by God going to die with him? Isaac would have been very intimidated when he went to Abimelech. He was going to a place where he was perceived as a threat or an enemy. Anybody who was a stranger to the Philistines could have easily been perceived as a threat, because they could have thought that they were out to take their land. He would have known from his father's experience that Abimelech was in the habit of taking women he was attracted to. He should have known from the past that Abimelech posed no threat to his wife, but he chose to be so consumed by fear that he wouldn't listen to the voice of God encouraging him to be faithful. Quite often we can be like him, shaking in our boots, thinking that there's no way out of our situation of tribulation, that it's inescapable. But we should know that God makes the impossible possible, and he always makes it possible for us to escape from tribulation with our soul in the right condition with him, if we're willing to be changed by him, to admit how much we need him. God made a reaffirmation of the covenant that he had made with Abraham. Imagine the terror and joy mixed up inside Isaac when he saw God face to face. Imagine how much Israel's future would have changed if Isaac had decided to be disobedient to God and go to Egypt before Jacob was sent there because of what his sons did in order to deal with a brother that they hated. Imagine being told that you would have as many kids as there are stars in the sky. Most people have problems handling one kid, let alone as many as there are stars in the sky. As far as we know, Isaac didn't have the same issues with fertility that Abraham had. He had the same issues with trust, though. In those days, kids were never seen as a problem so much as a blessing, because children represented a legacy. They were a symbol of prosperity, just as a fat belly is a symbol of prosperity in some Asian cultures, which is why Siddhartha Gautama is perceived as being a chunky man, even though in real life he spent a lot of his time starving himself and living on the streets begging for money. It's funny the way that Abimelech sprung Isaac stroking his wife. Perhaps he might have caught them naked, or maybe they were fully clothed and just stroking each other's clothes and being intimately embracing each other. It's kind of sad that Isaac thought that he had to lie in order to preserve his life. Often we think that lying is the best way out of our situation, but it's never the answer. It's always best to choose integrity. Honesty is the best policy. God rewards us when we're truthful. He blesses us when we walk in the opposite spirit to the world and walk in his spirit, when we choose to follow in his footsteps and ask ourselves, what he would do in any given situation. It's because a few of my souls have safe havens. It's a shame that Isaac had to deal with quarrels over wells. Because of Emmanuel, we've got a key to liberty from all our quarrels, and the eternal prospect of a brighter tomorrow while we remain breathing. When Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak that he could not see, he called his oldest son Esau and said to him, "My son." And he answered, "Here I am." He said, "Look, I am old and do not know the day of my death. So now, take your hunting gear, your quiver and bow, and go out into the field to hunt some game for me. Then make me a delicious meal that I love and bring it to me to eat, so that I can bless you before I die." Now Rebekah was listening to what Isaac had said to her son Esau. So while Esau went into the field to hunt some game to bring in, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Listen, I heard your father talking with your brother Esau. He said, 'Bring me game and make a delicious meal for me to eat, so that I can bless you in the Lord's presence before I die.' Now, my son, listen to me and do what I tell you. Go to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats, and I will make them into a delicious meal for your father, the kind he loves. Then take it to your father to eat, so that he may bless you before he dies." Jacob answered Rebekah his mother, "Look, my brother Esau is a hairy man, but I am a man with smooth skin. Suppose my father touches me, then I will be revealed to him as a deceiver and bring a curse rather than a blessing on myself." His mother said to him, "Your curse be on me, my son. Just obey me and go get them for me." So he went and got the goats and brought them to his mother, and his mother made the delicious food his father loved. Then Rebekah took the best clothes of her oldest son Esau, which were in the house, and had her youngest son Jacob wear them. She put the skins of the young goats on his hands and the smooth part of his neck. Then she handed the delicious food and the bread she had made to her son Jacob. When he came to his father, he said, "My father." And he answered, "Here I am. Who are you, my son?" Jacob replied to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game, so that you may bless me." But Isaac said to his son, "How did you ever find it so quickly, my son?" He replied, "Because the Lord your God made it happen for me." Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Please come closer so that I can touch you, my son. Are you really my son Esau or not?" So Jacob came closer to his father Isaac. When he touched him, he said, "The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau." He did not recognize him because his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau, so he blessed him. Again he asked, "Are you really my son Esau?" And he replied, "I am." Then he said, "Bring it closer to me and let me eat some of my son's game, so that I can bless you." Jacob brought it closer to him, and he ate. He brought him wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, "Please come closer and kiss me, my son." So he came closer and kissed him. When Isaac smelled his clothes, he blessed him and said, "The smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give to you from the dew of the sky and from the richness of the land an abundance of grain and new wine. May people serve you and nations bow and worship to you. Be master over your relatives. May your mother's sons bow and worship to you. Those who curse you will be cursed, and those who bless you will be blessed." As soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and Jacob had left the presence of his father Isaac, his brother Esau arrived from his hunting. He had also made some delicious food and brought it to his father. He said to his father, "Let my father get up and eat some of my son's game, so that you may bless me." But his father Isaac said to him, "Who are you?" He answered, "I am Esau, your firstborn son." Isaac began to tremble uncontrollably. "Who was it then," he said, "who hunted game and brought it to me? I ate it all before you came in, and I blessed him. Indeed, he will be blessed." When Esau heard his father's words, he cried out with a loud and bitter cry, and said to his father, "Bless me too, my father." But he replied, "Your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing." So he said, "Isn't he rightfully named Jacob? For he has cheated me twice now. He took my birthright, and look, now he has taken my blessing." Then he asked, "Haven't you saved a blessing for me?" But Isaac answered Esau, "Look, I have made him a master over you. I have given him all of his relatives as his servants, and have sustained him with grain and new wine. What then can I do for you, my son?" Esau said to his father, "Do you have only one blessing, my father? Bless me too, my father." And Esau wept loudly. His father Isaac answered him, "Look, your dwelling place will be away from the richness of the land, away from the dew of the sky above. You will live by your sword, and you will serve your brother. But when you rebel, you will break his yoke from your neck. Esau held a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing his father had given him. And Esau determined in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are approaching, then I will kill my brother Jacob. When the words of her oldest son Esau were reported to Rebekah, she summoned her youngest son Jacob and said to him, Listen, your brother Esau is consoling himself by planning to kill you. So now, my son, listen to me. Flee at once to my brother Laban in Haran and stay with him for a few days until your brother's anger subsides, until your brother's rage turns away from you and he forgets what you have done to him. Then I will send for you and bring you back from there. Why should I lose you both in one day? So Rebekah said to Isaac, I'm sick of my life because of these Hethite girls. If Jacob marries someone from around here like these Hethite girls, what good is my life? Isaac was struggling to see. We don't know if his eyesight was so bad that he couldn't tell one of his sons from another son. Esau had to be obedient to his dad and go out hunting. If he had been disobedient, though, if it had just lingered a little longer, he could have heard Rebekah's plans and he could have stopped his blessing from being stolen. Isaac should have responded to his mother's request to pretend to be his brother by telling her that he already had his brother's birthright. He didn't need to pretend to be him. But he chose to obey his mother. In most circumstances, it's good to obey your mother, but not when she tells you to do something deceitful. Jacob's response wasn't one of conviction, telling his mother that what she was asking him to do was wrong. Instead, he was more concerned about being found out and being cursed instead of blessed. It's funny that Jacob was so successful in pretending to be his brother. You could see that Isaac was suspicious when he had game just appear in front of him instead of taking a long time to hunt down and cook. These aren't the days when people had microwave meals where you could prepare a meal in a hurry, where you could just go out in the paddock and shoot something. That was the case with cattle, but he wanted wild game, so that would have had to be hunted down, and there wasn't necessarily a guarantee of success. It would have been a hard task that could have taken many days, because people didn't have transportation like we have now. They couldn't get to where they needed to be in a hurry. So it would have probably taken half a day for Esau to get to where he needed to be and come back. It's interesting that Isaac could tell by listening to his son's voice that something wasn't right, because his voice didn't sound like his son. Perhaps Jacob had a high-pitched voice and Esau had a deep voice. We have to assume that their intonation was vastly different, or just their level of confidence. Confident people tend to have their assertiveness and their self-assurance come out in their speech. Perhaps Isaac was cluey, detecting the nervousness that Jacob had because he knew that he was attempting to trick his dad. You could say he would make a good detective, but he could definitely be a better one. Perhaps the wine that he drank might have had a bearing on his ability to discern between one son and another son. Maybe he would be better at judging when he was sober. Most people are. They say the truth comes out when people are drunk, but people can lie when they're drunk too. Obviously, Jacob was stoked when he was given a massive blessing. This issue was settled between Jacob and Esau, but later on, Esau's descendants, the Edomites, allowed the grudge that they had against the Israelites, or the Jews, or the Hebrews, to fester inside of them, and they were wiped out essentially because of their jealousy, because they just kept on attacking the Israelites, and they wouldn't just live in peace even though they were given their own kingdom in a mountainous area. So Isaac summoned Jacob, blessed him, and commanded him, "Do not marry a Canaanite girl. Go at once to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father. Marry one of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and multiply you, so that you become an assembly of peoples. May God give you and your offspring the blessing of Abraham, so that you may possess the land where you live as a foreigner, the land God gave to Abraham." So Isaac sent Jacob to Padan Aram, to Laban the son of Bethuel the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. Esau noticed that Isaac blessed Jacob and sent him to Padan Aram to get a wife there. When he blessed him, Isaac commanded Jacob, "Do not marry a Canaanite girl." And Jacob listened to his father and mother and went to Padan Aram. Esau realized that his father Isaac disapproved of the Canaanite woman, so Esau went to Ishmael and married, in addition to his other wives, Mahalath, daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son. She was the sister of Nebaioth. Jacob left Beersheba and went toward Haran. He reached a certain place and spent the night there because the sun had set. He took one of the stones from the place, put it there at his head, and lay down in that place. And he dreamed a stairway was set on the ground with its top reaching to the sky, and God's angels were going up and down on it. The Lord was standing there beside him, saying, "I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your offspring the land on which you were lying. Your offspring will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out toward the west, the east, and the north and the south. All the peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. Look, I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go. I will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you." Then when Jacob awoke from his sleep, he said, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." He was afraid and said, "What an awesome place this is. This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven." Early in the morning, Jacob took the stone that was near his head and set it as a marker. Set up as a marker, he put oil on top of it and named the place Bethel, although previously the city was named Luz. Then Jacob made a vow, "If God will be with me and watch over me during this journey I'm making, if he provides me with food to eat and clothing to wear, and if I return safely to my father's family, then the Lord will be my God. This stone that I have set up as a marker will be God's house, and I will give to you a tenth of all that you give me." Jacob may have been peeved that his dad told him to marry someone in his family, but he obeyed without question. He was blessed because of his choice, even though he might have picked a better choice for a father-in-law. Obviously, Jacob was stoked with the blessing that God gave him, the same blessing that had been given to his granddad. This was before the Israelites had a land of their own, so they had a very unstable situation. Anytime they dug a well, it could be filled up. Isaac had to dig all the dirt out of the wells that had been filled in, which his father Abraham had initially dug along with his servants. Esau was smart to take his mother's advice and marry a woman that pleased her. Obviously, God could have blessed his choice regardless, but it's always better when you get along with your parents. No one wants to live in a house of war instead of a house of peace. Imagine Jacob's shock when he saw God standing in front of him, promising to give him the land he was lying on. Imagine the wondrous sight he saw, all the angels going up and down on the staircase. I can imagine they would have been glowing bright. I don't think Jacob would have been able to sleep easily. It's pretty tricky to rest on a rock. Imagine how much joy Jacob would have had being told that wherever he steps, he will have land. He will have land in all the directions of the compass. In saying that God would be with him, in saying that he would be with him, God was telling him that he would fight his battles for him. He would help him to overcome all opposition that he faced, all confrontations that he would encounter. Jacob's reaction was a mixture of fear and honor. It was a reaction of wonder. Bethel means house of God. Jacob decided to give a tithe of all he had. He decided to give a tenth of his food and clothing and possessions to the Lord. As far as I see it, we are required to give to God whenever he asks us to do so. We don't have to feel compelled by other people giving us edicts. It's enough just to wait for God's guidance. Obviously, we know from the example of Abraham and many others that have chosen to follow after God that God can bless you financially if you give of what you have to his kingdom. Some people can't afford to give financially, so they can give with their time or give with their prayers if they can't exert physical effort. Your prayers can be powerful weapons against the enemy. Often, your prayers can make just as much a difference as emptying your bank account and giving it to somebody in need. I pray for all my friends that are in lockdown situations around the world right now. I pray that God will bring them to a place of peace and joy. I pray for those in Los Angeles and Uganda. I pray that God will meet their needs, open the floodgates of heaven and pour out his blessings on them. I pray that he would help them not to react in a stressful way. I pray for my friend that's struggling financially, that God would open the floodgates of heaven and pour out his blessings on him. I pray that he would see that you're always there for him in his time of need. I pray that you would help him not to surrender to despair. Lord God, I love the way you're always there for us. I love the way you're always able to flip our situation around. You never cease to astound us. I pray that Kanye will make the right decision and make an album that glorifies you wholeheartedly instead of being a fence sitter. I don't want him to be vomited out of your mouth. I don't want to be like the Church of Laodicea either. I don't want to be one that always sees evil in others. I want to see good in others. I want to see your potential for redemption in the whole world and all its inhabitants. It's because of you we've got a brighter future. It's because of you we've got better days up ahead on the horizon. Because of you we can rise up from the dead. You are the resurrection and the life. You are the cure to trouble and strife. It's because of the stripes you bore, because of the 39 times you whipped with bits of bone and glass, that we are able to have the angel of death pass over our house, and the sting is removed from him because of you, glorious one.